All right, well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Prime Time.
Prime Time at the BU Library is a celebration of the experiences and accomplishments of Bethel faculty, students, and staff, and is a collaborative project between the Friends of the BU Library, faculty development, and other offices on campus. Most presentations are recorded and can be found on the BU Digital Library, so be sure to check out the library's news and events webpage and the BU calendar for what's coming up next on the schedule. So join us on Tuesday, November 3rd, as we welcome Eric Gossett. Dr. Eric Gossett, Professor of Math and Computer Science, as he presents Teaching Math and Computer Science Using Graphic Novels, and shares his sabbatical project of producing a graphic novel to supplement the discrete mathematics course. Today we welcome Kiersti Phenow for an off-campus study spotlight on her experiences with the Higher Education Consortium for Urban Affairs, also known as HECUA, whose focus is on class sessions, hands-on internships, and building community and relations in the U.S. and abroad. Let's welcome Kiersti.
Okay, well, thank you guys for coming this morning. It means a lot, and I know that I invited a lot of you, so that's probably why you're here. But I appreciate you still taking the time. Just wanting to thank a few people that kind of made this HECUA experience even possible. I love that my parents came here today. How sweet that is that they have continuously supported me and loved on me and really encouraged me to step into continuing my growth and my learning in multiple different ways. Multiple professors that have pulled some strings and pushed me to jump into new challenging experiences. Many students that have loved on me and supported me for many, many years here and really taught me so much. The study abroad office really went to bat for me right away when I was interested in HECUA and answered my thousands of questions and worked really hard to gain this new partnership with HECUA, which we're really excited about also. Kari also, when I first expressed my interest in HECUA has blown me away in terms of how intentionally they sought me out as a student, but not just because they wanted me to be a part of their program to add to their enrollment numbers, but because they truly, genuinely, and honestly cared about my being and who I am. And I also need to thank Julia Dinsmore, who is a friend of Bethel, but also a professor at HECUA for my course. And my freshman year, I sat in a classroom, intro to rec classroom, and I barely had any interaction with this beautiful woman, but she pulled me aside after class and said, "There's this program and it's called HECUA, and I think you would really love it." So I have to thank her for introducing me, but for also being such a teacher, such a sacred carrier of stories, and such a lover. So partly why I wanted people to come this morning and why I'm grateful for the opportunity to even talk about this is to encourage students to think about maybe joining a HECUA program and the multiple options that they have, and faculty and staff also to be able to encourage students that are potentially interested in these or also kind of similar to me in my learning style to jump into this program. But also this is sacred for me because I get a chance to, I'm realizing this is the first time I'm getting to unpack this experience, and there's something that's really scary about that and something really beautiful because I know that there's so much that I could talk about and it's hard to even begin to scratch the surface. So thanks for coming. But I do want to start off with how Phil, my professor at HECUA, used to start with class, and he would always welcome me and the fellow classmates of mine as students as well as professors. Welcome to learn and welcome to teach. And I'm also standing up here doing the same, coming as not only a teacher today and an educator, but also a learner. And that might not mean very much to you, but I hope that you really enter with a posture of that, because that's what made this experience so powerful. So I want to just give you a little bit of an understanding of what HECUA is, just so that you have some context. But like mentioned before, HECUA stands for Higher Education Consortium for Urban Affairs. My friends used to always joke with me and say, like, what the HECUA? And they had a blast with having fun with the name, but that's what it stands for. This is an off-campus study local or abroad program with programs in the U.S. as well as programs global. And this is an experiential education focusing on justice, social change, and an imaginative approaches to difficult problems that we see and face in our world today. So the program that I chose to be a part of was Inequality in America, the Policy, Community, and Politics of Empowerment. Now this is a program, and many of the other programs model kind of the same practice, but it's this two-part experience. So you have internship, and then you also have class time. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I was full-time in an internship, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays, I got to join back with my classmates and engage in what seems like class, but was also a transformational learning experience. But I also had the cool opportunity to have a third part to that, which was living and fully immersing myself within a community that is in the Phillips neighborhood, a house that got to be a community house, a space to gather with my classmates, a space to get to know my neighbors, a space to become a part of a beloved community that just really made kind of the experience be a really holistic, beautiful, powerful time. So, but why I chose HECUA? Many people ask why the HECUA would you stay in the United States, or even in Minneapolis and St. Paul for that matter, to study local. And I had the cool opportunity as a graduating senior in high school to decide to take a gap year, and I did get to go live in Cape Town, South Africa, which is an experience I wouldn't trade for a lifetime. But there was something different about coming back and trying to engage kind of my experience there into my life at Bethel and my life in general, and how do you understand yourself in just a radically different context in South Africa, but then all of a sudden make sense of it here? How do you take what you learned about oppression, about systematic racism, about all these things that I really care about, reconciliation, and make sense of it here? And so I found this opportunity to be able to do the very same thing in a very experiential way, yet have it really mean something. This is a community that I've grown up in, grew up in Richfield, which is only 2 miles from where I was living in the Phillips neighborhood, and got a chance to really understand kind of what inequality looks like here. I think as many Bethel students would probably agree that in this kind of Christian context, we tend to understand poverty in the third world country sense without ever having an opportunity to understand inequality in our very backyard, in our very space that we walk. And so this was a place this didn't allow me to remove myself from action, to go and to come back. This is a place that I get to coexist for the rest of my life. So another big reason why I chose to do this program, though, was the experiential part. This is something I'm just realizing now, and I'm still struggling with, but for the last 16 years of my life, in educational experiences and spaces, I've convinced myself that I'm stupid, and that I'm dumb, and that I had nothing to bring towards my classmates, and nothing to prove that could be written on paper, that my knowledge was very limited because I couldn't use big words. I still use them, but often just throw them in there for a little spice when I have no idea what they mean. But I never could prove myself in that way. And so there's something really powerful, I think, about this quote, that everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it's stupid. Now, I have been a fish trying to scale my way up a tree for far too long and never really had a chance to step into what do I offer, what do I get to prove in terms of what I know, what I experience, and what I see. And HECUA was this lifeboat for me, this chance to step into a place where I could actually contribute something. So how HECUA works is this phrase that I'll try to continue to kind of loop through, but this idea of learning from communities, with communities, and in communities, and that holistic approach. So from communities, in communities, and with communities. So I'll never forget my first day. So Dreamland Arts is a local nonprofit in Frogtown that we would rent space from, and that's where we would meet for class. And I showed up on my first day and got a chance to sit with 18 strangers in a circle, as we always sat in a circle to dismantle kind of the professor versus students, this really communal way of learning from one another by getting to see one another with our eyes, with our ears, and with our hearts. And so I got a chance to sit with some of these crazy people in a room and have the first day be completely dedicated to understanding who one another are, where we come from, our stories, our experience, asking questions about race, our identity. My identity as a white woman, my school. We had students from, I was the only Bethel student, an Augsburg student, St. Thomas, and then the remainder of the students were from the U of M. But people from different religious backgrounds, ethnic, just you name it, we brought a different thing to the space. And I was just blown away on, here I am on the first day, and all of a sudden people are telling their stories, and then, as Julia used to say, holy water was just streaming from people's eyes. We're sitting in a room full of strangers, but have this opportunity to literally just strip ourselves down to the raw, bare, vulnerable bones of our soul and get a chance to see that. And that, from day one, I'm like, holy crap, I've learned more in the last 4 hours being with these people than I really have ever in any of my classrooms. And it was because I got a chance to come as just a nothing, just a person in a space that has a story and that has kind of a way of re-engaging into this new place. So I didn't have any idea that those 18 people would become my professors, my fellow classmates, but the things that I learned from just being in community with people blew my mind, and that continued to show itself throughout the rest of my experience. But I do want to touch a little bit on kind of what we got to engage in and what we learned, and kind of the HECUA model of how to do so. So in class, we would get from this wonderful textbook articles that we would get a chance to read the night before, and then come and get a chance to discuss in multiple different ways. The things we were confused about, the things we had questions about, the things we were really mad about, the things that we wanted to do with what we were learning, and got a chance to really start to engage in topics of poverty and inequality, oppression, housing and homelessness, advocacy, the economy, globalization, workforce, community organizing, welfare, education, and also getting a chance to teach one another at the end of the year with our own research projects, in which I did mine on food swamps and food deserts and the lack of food in communities of predominantly low income and communities of color. So we got a chance to steep ourselves in each of these topics in really unique ways, and something that, like I keep talking about, learning from, with, and in communities, we got to see these topics truly come to life as we got to understand it more so from a community lens. So I add this quote all the time, and people that know me have heard it probably more times than they can count. But if you've come to help me, you're wasting your time. But if you've come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let's work together. And I want to highlight that part about let's work together and how unique that is and what it means for us to learn about these topics. My plan and my hope of majoring in reconciliation and social work, and I think my call in my life, is to engage in these topics, but be able to not help people, but realize that my liberation is truly bound with other people. So what HECUA does is we study these topics of inequality and poverty and the multitude of the other things, and we get a chance to hear it from people that it's actually affecting. So whether that's community speakers that are coming in, or whether that is us going out into the community to learn from the voices of people that are actually affected by it. So like I said, Grandma Julia Dinsmore would always come in, and she herself is somebody that's been affected by generational poverty for years and years and years, and her children also. And it's amazing what happens when you allow people to be your teachers in this, some of the most uneducated people based off of resumes and things like that, but yet the most profound teachers filled with the most wisdom to truly allow you to understand these systems of injustice. I think it's interesting how we can read from a textbook yet never ever have to step foot in somebody else's space, in somebody else's home. We never have to, and we never do unless we are given opportunities to. And so Julia used to come in, she would engage with us on a regular basis. But also what I loved about her is our classes, they weren't this ability to recite, exactly how the welfare system works. She came with poetry. She came with stories. She came with tears. She always, like I said, she talked about letting the holy water just run, and she broke these barriers and these bondages of people's wounds that they had no idea that even existed. The unique thing of learning from the community of learners that I was in is that many of the students in my classroom, they themselves have experienced oppression in a multitude of ways that I could never even begin to express. And so how this began to come alive continuously was this space of learning from a community member coming in, but then seeing the way that my community was bearing these same wounds, that were experiencing these same injustices as they began to pick apart the ways that these topics really truly hit home, and then they began to teach me a little bit more about their experience. We had a wonderful woman named Erna Landrum join us often. She talked about power. She would do really interactive things where we would be sitting on the floor doing power mapping, or crying or yelling things out. She would push and push and push and ask these questions that we didn't want to know the answers to, the questions that we didn't know the answers to. And she got to come into our space on a regular basis and be a community member that was teaching me these deep facts, these deep ideas, but doing it in a way that I could really truly engage in. Then we also had the opportunity to go into communities. So we might talk about community organizing for the first half of the day, and then the second half of the day, we're in North Minneapolis with Neighborhoods Organizing for Change, sitting in their space as they so wonderfully welcomed us into, and undeservingly welcomed us into, to learn about the work that they're doing on a day-to-day basis, knocking on doors, canvassing, the amount of the voter turnout that has happened in North Minneapolis because of knock, felon voter rights, all these amazing things, getting to actually hear and experience them from people that are doing this on a daily basis. State Tool, working for workers' rights for immigrants in South Minneapolis. I could just go on and on. St. Stephen's, we're talking about homelessness. I got an opportunity to walk a day in the life of what it's like to experience homelessness with a person who has experienced homelessness, who they themselves are the ones that gets paid that day to teach me about it. The truest professors, the people that are the biggest educators, are the people that we don't even take a second to really just infiltrate our mind and our soul and our heart. And so HECUA pairs learning with community and community and from community, learning from my classmates, learning from my neighbors, learning from community members, and also getting a chance to learn from literature and different things such as that. So as I got to engage in this, many of you that know my desire to be engaged relationally or experientially, it's crazy how much I began to have my mind be filled with knowledge. I understand these things we're talking about. I might not be able to give you a date and list the 10 people, but I can understand it for the first time in my life. And there's, what I'm learning, it could never be on a piece of paper. And so I also got an opportunity to, actually I want to start with this quote. Education either functions as an instrument in which it's used to facilitate integration of the younger generation into the logic of the present system and become about conformity, or it becomes a practice of freedom, the means by which men and women deal critically and creatively with reality and discover how to participate in the transformation of their world. And I felt free for the first time. I was free to see the ways that my mind and my God-given gifts and my weaknesses even got a chance to participate in the transformation of my world and of your world. Another way I got to do that was through an internship. HECUA gives you this opportunity to look at different options for internships and then pick 2 that you feel like fit you the best, or things that you're interested in, and then interview with them. And somehow I landed with Beacon Interfaith Housing Collaborative. I thought housing's something I haven't worked in much, but I'd like to. And I heard interfaith, and I thought, what an interesting way to potentially, integrate some of my Bethel experience and some of my painful wounds from that into a space of how do I engage other people from that perspective. And I went to my interview, and I was meeting with my supervisor, and he was using words that I've never heard before, and I'm just like nodding my head like, oh yeah, totally. And not realizing it at the point, but truly I like faked it until I made it, which is probably not a good thing to admit. But anyway, I did. And man, my community transformed me. My community at Beacon, my community of people working in affordable housing advocacy, I began to understand concepts and things that I'd never ever understood before. I remember calling my best friend after my interview and like, where do you find those Schoolhouse Rock videos of how Bill gets fast? I had no idea. And so I'm gonna skip the video, but here I got a chance to grassroots organize in congregations, people that have commitment to faith, to have a stronger impact on the legislative session of changing policy for the age change for homeless youth from 21 to 24, to ask for more money for affordable housing to be built. And I got this unique opportunity to kind of serve as the bridge with ordinary, everyday people like myself that have no idea what the heck legislation is or what that word even means, but then to also be meeting with representatives, meeting with senators, but really giving ordinary members a voice to have a really powerful impact on a legislative level. So we had the Home Is campaign, where people would write what home means to them, and then have a chance to kind of put this on a card that then I would deliver every Friday to the Capitol. And so each time a representative or a senator is coming to their mailbox, there's 10 cards saying, I believe in home, I believe in home, I believe in home. And it was kind of unique and cool for me to be in a place that I'd never been before, but getting a chance to go every Friday and keep, it's me again, here I am, here's more cards. And to get to sit in hearing rooms and to get to kind of see a different level of social change that I never really knew existed, and one that was important. The coolest part about this for me, again, tying back the whole piece of community, as I'm at the Capitol, I'm running into advocates from NOC that are advocating for felon voter rights at the same time. They're supporting me as I'm supporting them, and I'm getting a chance to see them in a different space, build a relationship, a partnership of a true bound liberation. The last part I do want to talk about a little bit and just touch on is my HECUA house. I lived in the Phillips neighborhood, and this was my cozy little home where many nights were laid on the floor up until 2 o'clock in the morning, being pissed and mad at the way that this world works, celebrating the ways that we saw hope in the smallest of ways, but also getting a chance to rub shoulders with neighbors and community members that, again, also were my professors in my classroom. This space was a sacred space where students from my class would gather, where we would make breakfast, where we would just continue to kind of process all the things that we had learned for that day. But this is just a sacred place for me that I miss going back to. I miss getting to eat in my neighborhood. I miss getting to shop at grocery stores. I miss getting to ride the bus. I miss all those things. So I do, one other thing I want to touch on is just the unique kind of community that HECUA even is, and the ways that you get to really practice your theory and practice these things. I had the unique opportunity to be able to be in a lot of rallies and direct kind of action protests, and the coolest thing is to be able to run into your professor, to be able to run into your classmates, this run into individuals from NOC, from SATOL, from the many other organizations that got to do life with, got to be in community with, and how much my classroom really was no longer four walls. Those four walls had been completely busted down. I didn't even want to be in a physical space of four walls anymore, because every day was a learning process. Every day was something completely new. Every day was a chance for me to say, I know something and I have something to contribute, and I might not be able to stand in front of you and put it out in a really professionalized, constructed way, but I get to be a part of this world, that I have skin in this game, and that I have a chance to leverage my privilege and my abilities, or lack thereof, to connect in different spaces. I felt brilliant for the first time, and that's a sacred thing for me, and it almost gets me emotional, because it's hard to not feel like you have something to contribute, and it's hard to not do so at school. And this way that we, it breaks my heart that there's so many brilliant individuals that I did life with on a day-to-day basis, yet they might never step foot in a college and a university. They might not have a plaque hanging on the wall, but they're brilliant. And part of my sharing this with you is to faculty and staff, be reminded of those students that are in your classroom. Students, be reminded of those people that you're walking halls with. Be reminded of those people as you are doing your day-to-day life. And just the liberation that I found in a small semester experience of feeling like I was valuable, that I was brilliant, and that I continue to be that, even when I might not be able to prove it in a number. That means something. So I want to leave space for some questions at the end, but I do have two beautiful friends that have not volunteered, that I asked them to help me with a little piece, a spoken word that myself and two girls from my class wrote. And HECUA has, like I mentioned, multiple different programs, and the cool thing is that they fit everybody's passions, everybody's gifts in different ways. And we have this end of the year celebration, this community gathering we call it, where we get a chance to share with other people from other HECUA experiences and other HECUA classrooms a little snippet of what we've learned and what we've experienced. And so my class did kind of this museum idea of a museum in the future of a world where inequality didn't exist. And we were touring people through the different aspects of back in the time in 2015 when inequality was very, very prevalent and present, a chance to kind of show what that looked like. And so we, myself and Chica and Emma, had a chance to talk about the economy. And so we wrote a spoken word to try to just highlight that a little bit. But keep in mind, this is a way that people learn too, through art and through the expression of voice. And these are real stories, these are real facts, these are real realities for a lot of people. So we're going to share that, and then we'll do a little dialogue and question time. So, ready? This is Zach and Becca. Yeah, One, two, three. I am a worker.
I am a mother. Did I mention I am single, raising 3 children on my own?
I am working 8 hours daily for 6 days in a row, adding up to a grand total of
48 hours a week.
I have no paid sick time to take care of my babies when they need their mother.
Did I mention my babies? I'm not there to put them on the bus or make them an afternoon snack. Thank goodness my great aunt Sarah helps out with the kids, considering I can't even afford childcare. On average, weekly childcare for my infant would be $174.
For my toddler, $166.
And for my preschooler, $175.
A grand total of $2,600 a month. And on my salary,
That's more than I make a month. They say it takes a village to raise a child, and boy, does it. Did I mention I make minimum wage of $8 an hour?
I am resilient, I am hardworking.
I am doing the best that I can. They say that over half of the people that start in poverty stay in poverty. I don't want that for my babies. Did I mention my babies?
Maybe if I just picked up another job, I could make ends meet. But if I do that, I won't be able to tuck my babies in that night or show up at their talent show to be the proud mother that I am.
I overheard my coworkers talking about organizing a union and maybe going on strike. But what if I lose my job?
Who will provide for my babies then? I can barely provide for them now in this economy. I represent the 1 in 4 American workers who make less than $13 an hour.
And $13 an hour is what it takes to lift a family of 4 above the poverty line. Here I am making 8. Why does this have to be so hard?
Or is it just so hard for me? My CEO makes $11,000 an hour. Did I mention he makes well over
1,000 times
what I make?
And they call me lazy? No, we are resilient.
We are hardworking.
We are doing the best that we can. So if anybody has any questions about HECUA, the wonderful Kari is here to answer those, whether it's how to get yourself connected or how to get a student connected, or if there's just any questions. But again, I want to remind you of the learner that you are today, but also the educator that you are, and how you have something to teach the people that are sitting here, and you have something to teach me. So even if you have a thought or if you resonated with something, I'd love to hear it. And don't embarrass me if you're quiet. Anybody? No?
I'll say something.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, for just knowing you for just over 6 weeks, I can honestly say, are your parents here?
They are,
That's
yeah.
what I thought. Okay, so let me just do this for one, okay? I need to thank you. This is the parents, right? Yes. I need to thank you for nurturing that beloved one right there. So thank you. Okay. I'm very proud of you. You've hit on a couple of things that for me, as a student of life, it's very important that we convey to our students, you make what we do worth it. By recognizing that those who do not have letters after their name have great value and have a genius that we can learn from. That there is really no waste in God's economy. I believe God values people in a way that we just simply don't. And we have much to learn from God in this regard. So I'm really thankful that you are learning to be not only a teachable human being, but to look to those who really are, have such insight that we just have to learn from. So I thank you for that. And it's just a joy to see how this has been a transformative experience for you. I have a deep amount of respect for you. When I see you at the cultural center, when I see, you are really learning to live the walk. That reconciliation isn't rhetoric. It's how you live with other people, how you participate in the beloved community. My ache, and yet my joy at the same time, is that that there was a point in your life, or for a long time, where you didn't see your own genius, recognize your own genius. And I'm thankful that shackle has been broken, because that's just a lie. So I'm really thankful, and I'm really excited to see how you will develop. But I think the ways in which we engage with people outside of this arena is very, very important. for our students and for the Board of Health. Thank you.
If not, Kari will be here for a little while to answer questions. I'm always happy to sit down for coffee or something to talk about how you can get involved with HECUA. Also, just thank you for the library staff for giving me a chance to begin to process this. I'm quite the verbal processor, as many ears in here know, and have been supportive of that. But this has just been like a beginning step for me to begin to just start to pick apart, you know, my experience, but also kind of a piece of my journey and a piece of my soul. So I appreciate you coming, for taking the time out of your day to listen, but I hope that you really heard more about a school that's doing this not just for me. It's not just about me. I was one of 18, and each of those 18 stories would look radically different than mine. So thank you for coming.